Alright, hello guys, how's it going? In today's video we're going to be talking about the upcoming temperature pattern. We're going to be using our ensemble models, including the GEFS, which is the GFS Ensemble Model, the Canadian Ensemble Model, and also the European Ensemble Model throughout this video. Now, before I get started with this video though, I would ask that you do subscribe if you dig weather-related content, and also make sure to check out the links in the description for our social medias. Let's get right into things. We're looking at our GFS model here, or our GFS Ensemble Model, and this is for tomorrow afternoon, which is going to be this December 6th, the afternoon/evening time. And you can see the temperature pattern is all over the place. There's not really a definitive trough or a ridge anywhere. Maybe I would say there's a bit of a trough up there for the Great Lakes through New England, and then a bit of a ridge up there in the west, but I mean nothing too definitive. Like I said, it's kind of just scattered all over the place. Very, very complicated pattern there. Let's move on to the 7th, and it becomes a little bit more apparent where the ridge is and where the trough is. We see that trough there for the East Coast and then the ridge there for the central United States. Things are moving in a pretty progressive pattern. We're going to talk a lot about the teleconnections at the end of the video, which is going to tell us more about the whole story of what's going on. But we definitely see a pretty progressive pattern indicating that the trough is moving from west to east as well as the ridges, and it's kind of just a very progressive moving revolving door type pattern, if that makes sense. Now, by time we're looking at December 9th here, you can see we have our next trough moving in through the north central United States. We see that big time trough right there trying to take place, but we will have a rather warm temperature pattern take place just before that, which is actually a pretty common occurrence. Now, we're about to move on to where things start to look extremely cold for the central and eastern United States, and it's going to be very, very interesting to see how this big-time cool down plays out. All right, so as you can see here, by the 10th of December, we can see a pretty big, very big actually, cold pattern set up for the central United States there, and we have a bit of a ridge along the west and east coast, and I'm pretty sure when we did our early December forecast, we did see an indication that something like this could set up during this time frame, so it's interesting to see the models doing really well, pretty far out for this type of pattern, but extremely cold there for the central United States. Let's move on to your European ensemble model, and it's showing something very similar for the 10th. There, as you can see, the cold is located right over Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the Dakotas, so pretty similar story. And then here's your Canadian ensemble model, and you can see it's a little bit more up north with it. It's not bringing it as far south, and it's not letting it dig in as much, which is going to be interesting to see which one is right. But so far, it seems like the GFS is the most cold, the European is somewhere in between, and then the Canadian model has the warmest solution, and not really letting that trough come too far down. Now let's move on with our GEFS model again. That's going to be our primary model we are using throughout this video. But here's by the 13th of December, and you can see that trough. It's not quite as strong, but it definitely has that cold now located all over the eastern United States and central United States, with that big time cool down here for the eastern United States. Going to be frigid actually during this time frame on the GFS, it looks like. Now we're about to take a look at what our European ensemble model has for this time frame, and also the Canadian ensemble model. Now here's a look at your European ensemble model, and you can see this is also on the 13th, and it does not have a big time cool down for the eastern United States. It actually has it mostly located up there for the northern eastern United States, maybe New England and the Great Lakes regions, but not really digging south into the southeast like the GFS would have it. So it's very interesting to see them disagreeing big time. But it's not really that unheard of for them to disagree, 5 to 7 days out. They do kind of disagree on some things like this, and it's definitely that case. So this could really just be secluded mostly to the north, or it could really dig down and be an entire central and eastern United States cool down. It's going to be interesting to see which one of those plays out. And then once again, this is our Canadian ensemble model, and for the second time, it is our warmest solution. As you can see, it's the furthest north. Again, the GFS is the coldest, the European is somewhere in between, and then the Canadian has it the furthest north, not really letting it dig down. Again, we're going to have to see which one of these ends up being correct. Now, here's your GEFS. We're going to move on with the GFS ensemble model. By the 15th, you can see the cold is still here in the eastern United States, and again, ensemble models, I explain this every time I show them, is a combination of 20 or 30 models here, and it's the mean average of what they're showing. So the further out you get, the more they start to disagree because they are different. So we start to see not as strong of temperature indications, and if there is a very strong temperature indication, that actually means a lot on an ensemble model, because that would mean 20 to 30 models are in really, really good agreement that there would be a lot of cold or warmth in some areas. But as you can see, we don't see those purples anymore, indicating that their confidence is lowering and lowering, and there's some models disagreeing here within the ensemble. And by the time we get to the 18th, it kind of gets a little crazy. This is not how it will look at all, and this is really just a case of, well, the models all kind of have cold all over the place. Some of them have it cold in the west, some of them have it cold in the central, and some of them have it cold in the east, but most of them have it cold in the central or the east here, and that's why it looks like this, but there's not a lot you can really take away from this. Now we're about to look at things in 5-day chunks, where we're going to be able to look at the 5th through the 10th, the 10th through the 15th, and the 15th through the 20th. Here's the 5th through the 10th on the GFS Ensemble Model, and as you can see, it's really cold for the Midwest and New England, but besides that, we have warmth all over the place. But as we take a look at the 10th through the 15th, that's where the cold starts to really move into the Midwest and some of the eastern United States as well, and things start to really, really cool down on this model by this point. And then the 15th through the 20th, it's also the same story, but again, there's a little bit less agreement, like I said before on the models. There is some not showing quite as much cold as others, and that's why it seems a little bit more suppressed here, but we'll have to wait and see, as that's pretty far out, 360 hours out. We'll have to continue to keep an eye on things as we move forward. Now we're going to talk a little bit about our teleconnections, and also if you stay tuned all the way to the end of the video, I'm going to have some featured photos from Winter Storm Ezekiel in the northeastern United States from a lot of regions, which is going to be exciting to look at as well. Looking at our teleconnections, this is our AO, Arctic Oscillation, and really for cold in the United States, you want this one to be negative, and as you can see, through the 15th, this one actually stays positive. Around the 10th, it goes neutral, but it's actually looking to be positive throughout this entire time frame. The good news is there's many different oscillations, and you don't need all of them to show good indications. Also on our NAO, we want this one to be negative for cold in the eastern United States, and it is also positive. So why are we seeing cold indications in the eastern United States on the models if both of those two teleconnections are in their positive phase, and that's kind of a warm phase for the east? Well, it's because of our EPO, which is our East Pacific Oscillation, and also our Pacific North American Oscillation, which we will get into in a second, but you want that EPO, this one, to be negative for the eastern United States to be cold, and sure enough, it is actually going to be negative through at least the 13th, and then be neutral or maybe negative after that point. And that's not really an oscillation that we've had in a really good phase for a while now, so it's interesting to see this one go negative. And then also the PNA is going to be positive from about the 6th, which is tomorrow, all the way through the 15th, which is another indication that we will have cold air in the eastern United States. So it really is a toss-up, because we have two that are showing cold for the east, and then we have two that are showing warm for the east. So that's why there's going to be kind of a battle of the oscillations here coming up, and we'll have to see ultimately how it plays out, because there is kind of mixed signals going on, if you will, going forward. Now, we're going to get into our photo feature section here about Winter Storm Ezekiel. Jim sent these ones from upstate New York. He said they got about 13 inches up there where he's at. In the top picture, you can see that he has a lot of snow there. I believe that's probably his yard. And then on a back porch, I think that's a grill with a cover on it. You can see just how much snow has accumulated on their porch there. Just a beautiful scene from upstate New York there. Thank you for sending those photos in, Jim. And then Mike sent some photos from Boston here, and you can see they've got a pretty good amount of snow as well. I believe this was probably earlier on in the snowstorm, because you can see snow is still falling, but definitely a beautiful scene there in Boston as well. I don't know exactly where in Boston, but thank you so much, Mike, for sending in those photos. I love seeing the viewers send in photos, so as snowstorms hit your area, be sure to send in some. You can check out the link for our Instagram in the description, so you always feel free to DM me photos of certain storms. People ask me all the time, is it okay if I send photos? Do you feel like you would like to see them? Just go ahead and send them. I love seeing them either way, so you guys don't have to ask me to send them. I would love to see them. That's not my personal Instagram anyway, so if you spam it, it's not a big deal. Be sure to send me those photos, because I would love to share those on the channel, and it would be a cool opportunity for you to get to see and for the world to see your photos of the winter storm that hit your areas. So again, if winter storms hit your area or you have any cool weather photos really to share, just be sure to send them, and there's a chance that I will share them on the YouTube channel. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next video.